continue for the rest of their lives. The bride and groom.
Bride and groom.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I prepared a superb speech for you this evening. But unfortunately, now that I'm married, I've been told to read this one instead. No, really, it was easy to write this speech when it comes to talking about Charlotte's good points. She is witty, generous, hardworking, gorgeous, and obviously a brilliant judge of character. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, family, freeloaders. It gives me a great pleasure on behalf of my beautiful wife and I to say that we are all over the moon to have so many people here today to share this amazing day with us. We've had people come from all over the globe to be here today, including Great Yarmouth, Wales, London, Dubai. But the clear winner out of them all was Katie, who travelled from Hong Kong She flew in this morning and is flying back tomorrow, so incredible effort. It really means the world to both of us that so many of you have made the effort to be here, so thank you very much. Family, so we are both blessed to have such loving and caring families, and we're truly honoured to share this day with so many of you. But unfortunately, it's not been possible to have everybody we love here with us today. There are some physically unable to make today, but there are others that have left us. We know that they are all here with us in spirit, and they are not only in our thoughts today, but more importantly, they are in our hearts always. So, with him in mind, this brings me to my first toast. Would you please all stand and raise your glasses and join me in a toast to absent family and friends. Absent family and friends. One down. So, the helpers. As you can imagine, we've been planning this wedding for some time. When I say we, I can take absolutely no credit for having been a cowboy in Texas the previous month, organising this wedding. One of the best things about being a cowboy in Texas is these wedding things do seem to organise themselves. I'm sure you all agree that Charlotte has done an amazing job. But this day wouldn't have come together without the help of so many others. To them we are truly indebted, as this special day wouldn't have been quite special without their help. So, to start, I would like to thank Emma and Stuart Dawes for the beautiful flowers and decorations. You have made our wedding day so special and so memorable, and your passion for what you do is truly appreciated. Thank you, Emma. I'd like to thank the speakers this morning, or this afternoon, Mary and Corinne. Your words today were kind, encouraging and perfectly delivered. Thank you. I'd like to thank Charlie and Harriet as witnesses for getting our marriage off to the best start possible. And finally, Ernie, with all the makeup and girly bits helping out the bride this morning. Thank you. There are undoubtedly other people who have had an impact on us, and it helped us in some way or another, and I would have to be here for hours to thank you all. So please know that your words, encouragement, love and support mean the world to both Charlotte and I. This brings me to my second toast, so please raise a glass to the sung and unsung heroes of this wedding. The helpers. I'll get the hang of it. Everybody looks fantastic today, but I want to mention 3 in particular. Charlotte's bridesmaids. They've all done a wonderful job. They've all done a wonderful job getting Charlotte to the hall on time, in one piece and down those stairs. Joanna and Olivia, you both look stunning, and I know Charlotte has appreciated having my sister and my new sister-in-law being by our side today. A special thank you goes to Chanel. You hate this. Firstly, for the amazing hen do for Charlotte.
Woo!
How do I know it was an amazing hen do? I was at the station with my dad to collect my fiancée, my little sister, and my mother. It was clear that they had both enjoyed themselves. My mum, on the way home, wouldn't stop saying, "It was this big." Thank you. But seriously, Chanel, for the last 18 months, you have been a rock for Charlotte, and more importantly, you have always been there for her. So thank you. So the ushers, now let's pay tribute to Gaz James Blake and Chief Usher Michael. Without you, all of this would have still been possible. No, really, they've done a fantastic job, turning up early, setting up, and they've all been on point. I'll make sure I grab a beer with each of you later on. So, for the 3rd time, please be upstanding. And join me raising a glass to the bridesmaids and ushers. So the friends, I couldn't stand up here and not mention the Garretts and the Edens, true family friends. My family basically grew up with these families on holiday and during half term. Thank you so much for giving me the best years of my life, and the memories such as Michael falling into a rose bush and shooting up Joe's Wendy house with a BB gun. Cheers, Ashley. Charlotte and I look forward to having many more holidays like this in the future, and who knows, maybe a family of our own. The Stranders, the super cool hairdresser stylists. When I first started seeing Charlotte in London, rocking up in the Gwen, just off the Strand, in a suit, looking like a suit, with a military style haircut. Thank you for talking to me. And looking after me. And I'm sorry for stealing Charlotte away from you. Hashtag sorry not sorry. Nailed it, right? Yeah. I have a table in front of me full of guys I met in my teens. Completed various adventures, D&V and other bits and pieces, and they've remained friends with me ever since. I've also put you all together because to prove to the army guys that I actually have civilian friends. Now to my work colleagues. I respect and will follow any one of the officers and soldiers around the room. They're all proven leaders, hardened soldiers, and will be my eternal friends. Every one of them is better than me, and it's been a pleasure to work with them or to them. Many people read history, but the soldiers and officers around the room, between them, have probably written or played a part in writing the history in the last 15 to 20 years. Be careful though, if you ask them about their stories, be ready to pull up a sandbag or pin your ears back because you're going to be there for a while. It wouldn't have been the same without all of you here today. So can everyone please again raise a glass to all of the friends. Parents next. And then it's you. So the parents, Phil and Michelle. Traditionally, I'm supposed to thank you both at this point for officially welcoming me to my family, but it seems strange for me to do that today, as you have both made me feel such a part of the little clan for such a long time now. You both made me feel so welcome and very much at home when we first met, and I'll always be grateful for that. I do not exaggerate. I'd only been going out with Charlotte a few weeks, and it was my birthday, and they gave me a proper cake, proper candles, and sang happy birthday to me. That happens still every year without fail. Also, in the first year we were going out, they discovered the horrible truth that I had never been to Disneyland. So, without fail, within months, I was in Disneyland Paris again. I will always be grateful for what a fantastically funny, strong and bright daughter you have raised and allowed me to marry. You heard Charlotte and I exchange our vows earlier today, and whilst this is a covenant between Charlotte and I, they are also promises I make to you. I promise to protect, to encourage and to make Charlotte laugh for the rest of our lives. Thank you for Charlotte, and thank you for accepting me into your family.
You're welcome.
There is so much you have done to make this day extra special, and it's something Charlotte and I will never forget. Mum and Dad.
It was that big. It is that big. It is that big.
Yeah, we'll forget that one, I think. I can't even begin to become close to thank you for everything that you've done for me. And nothing I can say can express how truly grateful I feel to have you both as parents. You have given me so many opportunities, and that has made me the man I am today, but more importantly, the man Charlotte has chosen to marry. Mum, you were also always so supportive to me, to be myself, and that could not have been easy for you, given some of the places I've been and the career I've chosen. Thank you so much, and thank you for always being there. Dad, whenever they ask at work who my hero is, and they do ask that a lot, I've always said you. 40 years active service in the police, I've always been proud of you and to do the best I can to live up to your name. You have both done so much to get me to where I am today, and I quite literally wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for your support, your love and guidance. So Charlotte, if it doesn't work out, no to blame. So please join me in a toast to 4 fantastic people. The parents. Charlotte, my wife. When you walked into the room earlier today, your beauty literally took my breath away. You are absolutely stunning, and I really am the luckiest guy in the world. I just wanted to say, in front of all of our family and dearest friends, that I love you. And I hope that every day is as happy as today. Just not as expensive. We've been on many adventures together and had so many laughs. I remember this one time we were travelling at night down the motorway, and there was a road sign that started flashing up, and it said, animals in road with the speed limit underneath. And Charlotte, as quick as lightning, said, wow, exactly 40 animals in the road. How do they know that? True story. Charlotte is beautiful, but she's also an incredibly strong girl. When I asked your parents permission to marry you, they sat me down, made me a brew, and said, you do know she's got a temper. You moved to Canterbury to be with me, and I honestly have never been happier. We just work. You demonstrated how incredibly selfless you are by giving up not only your friends, your family, but also your profession. I will never forget that. Unfazed, she moved job and got promoted within 1 year. I'm so proud of you. I still can't believe you want to come to Tidworth with me now. That's 3 moves in 4 years. So we are a team, and we have each other's back. I like you, and I enjoy living with you. Very important, very important. You are my best friend and my other half, and I cannot imagine a day without you in my life. You're the girl. Mark Twain once said, the 2 most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day you find out why. Today, I found out why, and I will look after Charlotte with every breath that I breathe. So, on to the most important toast I'm ever going to make. Please stand and raise a glass to my beautiful wife. To Charlotte Richardson. Made you cry.
It's so fun.
They say being the best man or the best men is like snogging the Queen. It's an honour, but no one really wants to do it. So I'm fortunate to have Chris and Dan as my best men. They've been absolutely fantastic from the first time I mentioned about popping the question, to organising the stag do, to sorting this out this morning with all the bits and pieces you've helped with. Top class from start to finish. I'd also like to thank Chris for not pulling my pants down during the speech. It's something I was seriously worried about. Watch your 6 later. Now, before I hand over to Dan and Hogman, it's worth mentioning that they actually live in a parallel universe, which causes them to invent fanciful stories. Yes, they are on the spectrum. They really do believe these stories to be true, so thank you for humouring them during their speech. So, without further delay, the best men, Chris and Dan.
This is the one that a lot of you have been waiting for, to hear what dirt we can dish up on Andy, but more on that later. He has managed to actually steal one of our jokes with the end of his speech there about the Queen, so he obviously knows us quite well.
Let's start that off anyway, shall we?
Yeah, well, yeah, go with it. Why not? Why not?
The first joke was... Let me start by saying being best friends with Andy is a little bit like making love to the Queen. It's truly an honour, but you wouldn't want to tell anyone about it. I've got another one, don't worry.
Yes! One joke.
I then moved on to say it's nice to get the first joke out of the way, but it has been an emotional day. Even the cake is in tears. Come on! Come on!
Right, so.
That's how funny that was.
Right, for those of you that don't know us, my name's Dan.
And I'm Chris. Some of you might remember at Andy's engagement party him handing out a photograph of a very badly burnt man, sunburnt man, who was completely naked. That was me. I plan to get you back in this speech.
We're two of Andy's best friends. We've known him for many years. He's certainly one of my best friends and someone I know I can rely on. I'm sure you'd agree, many a beer have been drunk, excuse me, watching and then commiserating over Tottenham's woes together. I've personally known him since we were about 13 and met at the Air Cadets, which I'm not sure if all his army colleagues are aware of, but they certainly are now. And I'm sure it's something that will stick with him for a little while.
I've known Andy probably since I was about 5 or 6 years old. We joined Warrenmead Primary School together, and then on to junior school. And he finally thought he'd escaped me when we went to secondary school. Unfortunately for him, I was sat there in our form room waiting for him with a chair ready to go. And this continued in every single lesson we went to. So you could kind of say that I forced my friendship upon him.
As I sort of touched upon, we're very well aware that this is the part of the day that we're meant to come out with a bunch of stories that embarrass Andy and make him feel pretty uncomfortable. We promised him we'd be quite gentle and keep it tactful. I know he's been a bit concerned about what we would come up with. Unfortunately for Andy, we do live in a democracy, and I reckon most people want to hear it. So majority rules, and we're going ahead, mate.
Before we move on any further, though, we wanted to thank Andy for asking us to be his best men. We both accepted straight away, I think.
Yeah.
Without the knowledge that the other had actually been asked.
I mean, doing it together has been nice, but spending so much time together today, I'm starting to think people might think we're a couple.
I'll let you judge who's punching.
The other reason I think Andy might have asked me is because Andy was my best man a couple of years ago, and having been kind to me and doing the best man honour, maybe he was hoping for some kind of favours back. Again, sorry mate, that was a misplaced hope. So before we do move on to the stories, there's just a few moments, or if we could just take a moment rather, to honour some of our traditional duties.
So firstly, a huge thank you to the wonderful bridesmaids who all look beautiful today.
I'm sure everyone will agree they are outshone today, however, by the beautiful bride herself, Charlotte, who looks absolutely incredible.
I was a little bit scared to say this one in front of all the army guys, but thank you to all the ushers, all that training at Sandhurst to point people in the right direction.
Right, so
Weapons free.
we had a quick Google. Well, I say quick. We spent months trying to put this all together. We Googled for what a good best man speech needs. From what we can work out, it needs to be short, funny, to the point, and not go on and on. And if any of you speak to my wife, I'm sure that won't be a problem at all.
So we move on to how lucky is Andy? Well, not only has he managed to get himself a beautiful wife, or persuade someone to marry him, they actually lived together and she still said yes. So she's a much better person than I am. Charlotte is funny, helpful, charming, beautiful, kind, about everything Andy isn't.
I mean, nowadays the best man role has become more of a sort of weekend thing. It's not just a day anymore, really. Andy's had us both on beck and call if he's needed us since yesterday evening, and I imagine we'll go off duty sometime mid-morning tomorrow. Basically, it's just like any other weekend out with Andy.
Right, some of you won't know or don't know that Andy will be turning 30 next year. I'm sure that you'll know he's ecstatic about that. So taking you back to the beginning, Andy was born on the 10th of April 1987. And I'm sure most of you will agree there's not anything very special about that day at all. In fact, it turns out that the most eventful thing it does is sometimes they call it Good Friday. And that's about it.
Andy went on to grow up, and as you've already heard, he made friends with Chris at school, something I still feel sorry for you about, by the way, mate. Over the next decade or so, And he did develop into an astute student, though, of beer and clubs.
As far as I can tell, he made the decision to join the army based entirely on the fact that him and Dan used to muck around in muddy fields as cadets. That's all I ever understood that they spoke about.
But to Andy's credit, he's still there in the army to this very day, still trying to convince us and all his other civvy mates that a couple of years posted out in Cyprus is work and it's a hard life getting given a flat down in Canterbury.
We'll come into the stories, don't worry. So, just a side note, Andy gave us some quite strict rules about what we could and couldn't say.
Yeah, he did. We lost those, though, didn't we?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know where my set of rules went.
No, I lost mine as well. I remember a time, it was, I don't know, 2005 or so, me and Andy were about 18. First ever lads holiday overseas. It was amazing. We were out in Spain. It was the last night, the bar had shut. We're making our way back to the accommodation. Andy wanted to continue drinking. It's a very questionable, shady-looking bar with a lot of neon lights. He somehow persuades me to come with him, so off we go. The first thing that was very strange, we get in the door and the doorman shuts the door behind us and locks it. I was like, that's not normal. The second thing that was a little bit weird was that there was quite a few very scantily dressed women in there. And just this one huge doorman and one bloke behind the bar. They were the only other males. So straight away I'm thinking, I think we probably walked into a brothel here. Andy, completely oblivious to what's going on, has decided to go and sit down and ask me to get around him. I've managed to usher Andy out after some of these ladies have started trying to chat to him, and Andy still couldn't understand why I was dragging him away from this place where all these women were trying to talk to him.
We went back there several times. It's a little favourite story of mine. It was the time that Andy went to Ibiza. Dan and I had gone the year before and came back with tales of clubs, drinking, dancing, women, mostly women. So Andy decided he wanted to go the following year, and he went with his good friend Blake. So we were all expecting they were going to have a wonderful time, and they didn't really tell us much about it when they returned. It took us probably about 3 to 4 months to get out of him that they booked up the wrong time of year. All the clubs were shut. There was barely anyone there other than them two. So a romantic weekend away for two, I think.
Sounds something about its finest. Another thing that always sticks in my mind with Andy, a night out, again, we were a bit younger, 18, 19. Everyone that we knew was going out to Croydon. He said he was working the next day and he'd give me a lift to the club. I thought, brilliant. He said he was going to drive, so he'd give us a lift home. Brilliant. Obviously, they didn't work quite like that. We got their parts up and then Andy decided to drink too. We ended up sleeping in the back of his Vauxhall Corsa, absolutely freezing cold. Now, to his credit, Andy decided that he'd put the car key in the boot, in the spare wheel well. Obviously a tip from his dad, I imagine, about some kind of being drunk in charge type offence. Didn't want to get in any kind of trouble. The problem came when we woke up the next morning, freezing cold in this Vauxhall Corsa, and Andy couldn't remember where the key was.
That's a true story.
No, they're all true. So some of you might know that Andy can be quite the party animal, and he's always been like that ever since we were young. Unfortunately, when you're much younger, you don't necessarily have the funds to pay for the clubbing, the drink, and everything. So you might try drinking shots for as quickly as possible, or even shots of wine to get yourself drunk. One day we're in Kingston, heading to the works, some of you may know it, and we happened to come across the fire exit doors open at the rear of the club. Thinking we were being very clever to get in there for free, all 5 of us, and a few of the people here in the room were there, charged into the club, ran to the dance floor so that we wouldn't be seen. Unfortunately for us, everyone else was wearing t-shirts and shirts. We were in jumpers, coats and gloves.
Yeah.
So needless to say, we were carted out very quickly by the bouncers, and I believe Andy was carried out whilst claiming that it was a travesty to justice and he'd done nothing wrong.
I remember a time when we were we were quite young, 14 or 15, and he told me that he'd heard about a party that was going on and didn't want to come. Of course I did, I was 14, 15. He said the party was in Walton. Bearing in mind we grew up in Epsom, Walton's quite a way. I was like, yeah, okay. He then said, bring your tent. Felt a little bit weird, but he said there's a party, I'll go with it. Off I went to Walton. It was only once I was in Walton, way past the last train time. It turns out there sort of was a party, but we weren't invited to it. So we ended up spending the night in a tent, in a park, near to where the party was in Walton. Thanks for that night, Andy.
Final story, I promise. Now I want to talk about a time when Charlotte had Andy's best interests at heart. Sometimes Andy can be a little bit headstrong.
No.
So we had a party. So we had a party at my house. Coming to the end of the evening, everyone's drunk. Decided to play some drinking games. And the aim of the game is you make a diamond shape with cards and you have to get across. And if you get a face card, you end up doing a shot, starting again, and it continues basically. Andy was so drunk and didn't realise I was setting the cards up. So I have never seen a person drink so much during this game. But he continued on. Until Charlotte, in a fairly firm voice, turned around to Andy and said, Andrew, I'm going to bed now. Most sensible men in this room will know what that means. But Andy looked at Charlotte, and then he looked back at me, and then he looked back at Charlotte, and then he looked at me again, and he said, I'm finishing this game. From this point onwards, I was actually trying to let him win the game, but he has the worst luck. And I was told by Charlotte in the morning that he actually couldn't find the bed, he slept on the floor, and was freezing cold.
And it's a special day, and I suppose it's time we should start being a little bit nicer. I do remember the times over the summers as know-it-all teenagers in your garden, putting the world to rights. Day after day was spent there. Memories I will cherish forever. Whenever my life's thrown up difficult situations, if I've been down, you've always had time to come and see me, always been there to help out. I thank you for that, mate.
He's the sort of person who will always change his plans to accommodate us and be there when we need him. Even if it's just a moan about the world, as Dan said. And this is the case of all of his friends. I think we could all agree with that.
He's the type of mate that's there 24/7. He'll be there, he'll try and help out however he can. When my wife was in hospital, you were the guy calling and saying, do you need a lift down there? That kind of guy, and I know that we will appreciate him, mate.
Andy, you're a top man, a good friend, best friend to both me and Dan. And I know you'll always be there for us. You did a good job, by the way. Yeah, go on.
His new wife Charlotte, I'm sure you will agree, is an absolutely lovely lady, but she also seems to have this strange magic power of being able to keep Andy in check, something no one else has ever managed.
Ever. And I'm sure you will all agree, they make a wonderful couple, and I know you want to enjoy this day with them, so at the end of the evening, please everyone be upstanding and dancing with them.
So Andy, you are top bloke, you're top man, and Charlotte, you complete him. You're such a lovely, wonderful couple. Thank you for having us all here today. And if you could all be upstanding, one last time. To the bride and groom. Bride and groom.